Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Fearless Road Podcast, episode 2. Last week we dropped with episode 1, our premiere episode with the amazing Jen Storno. I'm so proud of that episode and her. She's amazing. I hope you watched it. I hope you listened. This week, we keep the insights flowing with episode 2 with the amazing Dr. Johnny Bergstrom, the Gratitude Doctor. Gratitude changes everything. That's his message. That's his mission. And now that's his book out on Amazon. So go get it, by the way. We talk a little bit about gratitude and the crossroads of gratitude and fear and how that they come together to shape a person's life. Speaking of shaping a person's life, Dr. Johnny shares his challenges with being bullied as a youth. And this is relevant because October is National Bullying Awareness Month, right? So this is, and October 2nd is World Day of Bullying Awareness. And that just happens to be the day that we dropped the episode, Monday, October 2nd. And I went through my own torturous years, middle school, junior high school, with bullying. And of course, this was in the 80s, which, was a long time ago, but it's still happening today, people. Like, it's still going on. It's a terrible issue for this world. It's global, and it impacts so many lives. In fact, here are some stats for you. 46% of teens report being cyberbullied. 60% of these teens, 60% of our teens that end up becoming mass shooters were bullied. 25% of LGBTQ students bullied at school. 22% of all of our students bullied every year. 22%. 43% of them stated that if they witnessed it, they wouldn't intervene. They wouldn't help. Why? This is a problem. It is a problem. 53.8% of our Latin brothers and sisters get bullied at work. 53% of our Latin brothers and sisters get bullied, not at high school, at work. I mean, come on. So anyway, this month is National Bullying Awareness Month. We can do something about it, and we're having a conversation on the Fearless Road with Dr. Johnny Bergstrom about bullying, but more importantly, about gratitude. And you can talk to your kids about that when you get them at home. You can let them listen to the episode. This is your chance to get in on the conversation. This is your chance to actually bring some awareness to the issue. So many of us have been bullied, and we've been down this particular road. So this episode, we talk about gratitude, we talk about fear, we talk about how both of these two things come together to shape our lives. And Dr. Johnny shows us with his book, especially, 5 steps you can take to help bring more gratitude into your life. And he shares with us how it's really changed his, and that's his mission around the world, to change everyone by bringing a little gratitude, helping them find gratitude. So episode 2 comes out on Monday, October 2nd. So download it, subscribe to it, like it, do all the things, let me know your thoughts. Hashtag, @mention, tag us, all those things. That's probably bad for sunlight. Anyway, all right, kids, I'm walking back up the hill and the breathing's going to get heavy. So stay fearless, stay healthy, and be grateful. I am for you. Bye. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's begin. Let's dive into this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Fearless Road Podcast. I don't even know what episode this is going to be, but it's going to be a good episode. Why? Because we've got Dr. Johnny on the show, Fearless Road Podcast. Dr. Johnny is the Gratitude Doctor. He's an award-winning coach and doctor of metaphysical science and an entrepreneur. His podcast, which is Gratitude Changes Everything, can be found on all of your major networks, and a new book that just came out. You can get it on Amazon, Gratitude Changes Everything. Dr. Johnny has been there it is. Dr. Johnny has been diagnosing, prognosing, and generally dosing all of us daily with gratitude medicine that helps to mend our minds, heal our hearts, and strengthen our spirits all over the world by coaching clients to live ultimately with gratitude. So with a lot of gratitude, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Johnny Bergstrom.
Yay, everybody goes crazy.
I hear the applause. I can feel it right now.
There we go.
How are you? How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm grateful. How are you?
Well, you should be grateful. You're going to teach us a little bit about gratitude, and hopefully I'm going to dig in here and find out how fear plays along with that on the Fearless Red podcast today. So we're going to get a little into this. Before we do, though, I want to get a little background on you so the audience knows kind of where you came from and how you got to become the doctor of gratitude. Would you share with us a little bit about that journey?
Sure. So I started coaching in the general vicinity of coaching about 15 years ago, and it was for a leading weight loss company. We'll leave it at that. And I myself lost 120 pounds at the time. I know, can you believe it? And And after I got myself to goal, I thought that that would be a great place to work, and it was. And I, for the next 4 years after that, was coaching people throughout my county, tons of people to lose tons of weight, and really found that there was a calling within that to really speak to the issues that were underneath why we were eating and why we mismanaged food beyond what we needed it for generally. And after that was outgrown, I decided that I could do that kind of stuff on my own. So I decided to open my first private practice, and that was about 11 years ago. And that was working with people one-on-one, small groups, about 4 or less, and then sometimes some corporate clients as well, taking it to their places of business to take the same approach, but my own twist to it to really go farther than what I was not previously allowed to go beyond, because that's what the niche was. I wanted to go beyond where I had to get, or where I was allowed to take the needle and then have to stop because we didn't do that. So it was like, okay, I want to do that. I want to ask the hard questions, So I needed to open the door myself for that. And I've been in practice ever since. So 11 years. Yeah. So 15 total, 11 on my own, and changing lives every day. And now mastering that through the approach of gratitude globally. Yes.
Globally.
Mm-hmm.
Your journey to entrepreneurship. That's right. 6 countries, 6 continents. How many countries?
Continents. Too many.
Too many, of course.
You haven't decided what episode this is going to be. You don't even know how long your show is going to be. Maybe we're not going to dive into counting countries.
Let's not do numbers, because numbers hurt.
A lot.
I'm not a math person, so I just don't even bother to go there. That's why my consulting firm is called Fifth Quarter Consulting, because math was not my thing. And when I was in college, I thought there were 5 quarters to a tank of gas. And I called my dad from the side of the road, so upset and irritated. He's like, "You've always been like that throughout life. You've always had a 5th quarter of a tank. No matter what you do, you always think there's extra there." And I was like, well, that's what I'm going to call the business, is 5th Quarter Consulting, because we can always find more in the tank. Speaking of the Ultimate Life LLC, your entrepreneurship journey into business, you created this LLC, which is sort of a bespoke 6-week lifestyle coaching process. 2 things I think is really cool about that, but 2 things. How would you describe your philosophy on entrepreneurship if you have one? And 2, there are no days off. Can you elaborate on that?
I'll start with that one first, and then you can think about a way to expand that initial question of that, because that's a loaded question about
your philosophy.
There are no, that one. We'll get back to that one. A little circle, not quarters, though. We know how we are with quarters. So,
yes. So I have to jump in here. Did anybody see that video of that girl trying to describe 30 degrees and how hotter it could get, because 30 degrees on the circle was only part of 360 degrees, and that if we're at 30 degrees Celsius right now, it's just going to get hotter. And I shared this with my dad, and my family was like, "That's my math." I totally understood what she was saying. So sorry about that, to digress, audience. But if you check it out, go to TikTok or Instagram, wherever it is. Some lady in Britain is describing how hot it is based on 360 degrees, and it's a blessing. It's hysterical, but it's really good. So sorry to interrupt you. Yes.
You're fine.
There are no
That
days
is
off.
something I'll have to see. Yeah. There really aren't. No, there are no days off. And there could be essentially days off if I didn't manage the time well and didn't have clients who were overlapping, but I'm always on a call or a text thread with somebody about something, but it's all my doing. That's what I wanted to do. With life coaching, which I've evolved into personally for me, lifestyle coaching, it's more about being able to pick up a phone and saying, you know what, I'm stuck right now. I need you. And, I wear an Apple Watch, I have an iPhone, I have access to everything and everybody. So there's no reason why I'm not reachable unless, as it's understood by my clients, that I'm with another client or that, I'm just currently unable to actually just take the call. But there's nothing that expands more than an hour. And it's just that much better to be able to jump in and keep somebody from choosing something they wouldn't want to do. So whether the client's trying to, manage weight loss or other issues that we've been working on to build, it's those life moments where might really dive into, with the fearless road, dealing with fear and approaching a situation that would normally scare them. And okay, I'm about to do this. I need a boost. Where's my coach? Where's my guy? And I'm right there. It's like I might not physically be right there, but I'm right there.
Do
And
you
so
feel like
no,
that
there are
makes
no
a
days
difference
off
for
with
them?
that. I
It
do.
makes it,
I
yeah,
do.
because I imagine that a client knowing, specifically under the circumstances of being coached, lifestyle coaching as well as personal coaching, to know that they have access to you could make the difference between being successful at certain choices and not feeling successful at certain choices, as well as overcoming some of those fears in making those choices.
Right. Exactly. Now there is a little bit of a there's a little bit of a disclaimer there. So as you mentioned in the lead in for that, it is a 6-week program for everybody. At the outset of the 6 weeks, I do a consultation. We talk. I see if I think that I would be good for whomever. And then if they agree, we start working on it. We're committed to each other nonstop. It's not 24 hours a day, but it is most hours of every day, for 6 weeks. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, based on progress, based on feelings, mutually, it determines if it goes on again. And it's been working really, really well because a lot of people have a fear of commitment. And a lot of us don't really want to, lock ourselves into something, especially, at a coaching rate, it's not cheap. But you are paying for extremely rare access that is responded to, catered to, and customized to you. And that's why I wanted to really open up this venture with Ultimate Life, was making it so that it was accessible and really ultimate.
Do you work with a lot of executives and entrepreneurs and stuff as well? And you find you have a lot of those reaching out to you when you coach?
Yes. And because of that demand in their schedule, it's got to be, I might be at the drop of a hat. It sounds like, okay, well, you're available all the time. Well, I'm available most of the time, but I'm not needed all the time. It's like, hey, I have 3 minutes between this client and this client. What do I do? How do I handle this type of personality? This person is really just my, ultimate thing that really just gets me nervous and, before a meeting, or does not pan out well otherwise. Then that is one example of how it works and how it just makes it better.
And how would you describe the intersection of gratitude and fear?
I would describe the intersection as one that would be dark at first, but then a light would turn on. And once illuminated, you see that there's nothing to be afraid of. Because most of us, would you agree that most of us fear the unknown?
Absolutely, 100%. I think the majority, and I've said this before, I think on the show as well as in other ways, the majority of the fears that we discuss on the Fearless Road when talking to entrepreneurs and business executives and subject matter experts and visionaries and things like that, almost every fear that they have in regards to their business, that they have in regards to making choices and becoming, this is what I say, we either want to do, be, or have something different than what we currently are in the state of where we are. And we want to step into that new space of our new selves, the greater, better version of ourselves. And in doing so, that brings up all of these fears. They're all mental. They're all about the unknown. And they are usually projections we put out in front of ourselves when A, we don't know the outcome, and B, there's a a sense of unworthiness, when there's a question about our worth in taking this on, in becoming this thing, in doing or having that next thing, right? We have, for some reason, built in our heads a space that is available for both dreaming big and making magic and being little gods, little creators in this world, that is simultaneously pitted against fears of unknown, doubts of ability to complete, worthiness and of value in doing these things. And I think we live in this space between the two things, between the 7-year-old who wants to be a space astronaut and the 7-year-old who's terrified of the world and what it means to grow up in it. And I think that's where we've been almost all our lives. And for those of us who live and work in the entrepreneur space, which is constantly creating opportunities, creating services, creating goods, creating whatever, we are always going to be met with, I think, those fears, because they come from inside of us. Very few of them come from outside, and a lot of them have to do with our self-worth and value and what we perceive our worthiness of taking this thing, getting this thing, having this thing, becoming this thing. So yeah, I would agree with you. I think that was a long way of saying yes.
Just draw it out. Yeah. No, you have I love your perspective, and it's exactly right. So much of us fear what we don't know, and it's the inherent fear that blends with the conditioned fear, that blends with everything else that just doesn't jive with what we think we want. And everything that we decide that we want for ourselves as we age, whether it's from childhood into adolescence into adulthood, we gauge what we want and what we think we're capable of based on what we've been conditioned by other people to think, like you mentioned, what we're worthy of. And
Yep.
then based on what we think we're worthy of, then we start to doubt and we start to wonder, well, they said I couldn't do this. That person said I couldn't do it. This one said I couldn't do it. So maybe I can't do it. Maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I shouldn't even bother trying, because what if I try and then everybody laughs at me? And then the what ifs start. And then what if I do it wrong? What if I don't know how to do it? What if it's ugly? What if it's not worth other people's time? What if they laugh in my face and tell me that that's not going to work? So many different what ifs that it makes you just want to pull all of your hair out. So as far as, circling back to the question about entrepreneurship and my philosophy with it, if you have a goal, if you have something that you think that you can do better than anybody else, do it. But it's not that easy. Anybody who's ever said anything about coaching for entrepreneurs, or anybody who wanted to start their own venture, it's hard as hell. And that's the part that they leave out. It's exhausting. When I started coaching, I thought on my own, because it was a quick pivot when I decided to go on my own. I had left the other job, and it was within 3 days that I incorporated the venture for the first time. And that was a very long but very exhausting 3 days. But 3 days later, I had enough capital. I was in with an attorney. I started setting up the business, and then I opened, and here we are. And luckily enough, because enough people missed me from the previous venture, and it's been long enough that I can say that now, that my phone number started to get passed around, and people wanted to continue what we had started out there together on their own otherwise. But it's a scary thing, and it requires a lot of time. And I do not have children. I haven't decided if I want them or not. I'm still young and gorgeous, so we're going to keep it this way as long as I can. Kidding. Anybody who watches this and you think, wow, you ego. No, I really just try to make you laugh, because if you're going to watch this and you're going to listen to anything that any of us do in the podcasting world and
Yeah.
anything that takes up your time, if you're still here, you know that you've got something here. So, but with the philosophy with it, it's not just if you have something that you want to do yourself to do it. I discovered a long time ago, because I had a lot of jobs. I mean, a lot of jobs. I've done everything. And well, not the manual labor jobs, but I did a lot of jobs. And I'm an
Let's
indoor
be clear.
guy, okay?
They're still good.
Well, I mean, I live in South Florida. I'm very fair-skinned. I can't really be outside without getting burned, so I wasn't going to do outside stuff. So indoor stuff, fine, but labor all the way. But I realized that I had an issue with everybody that I like at somewhere where I worked. And it was like, is this me? What's the problem? And the answer was yes. But it wasn't that I was a lazy worker. It wasn't that I didn't have what it took to do the job. It wasn't anything negative about me. And that's where that fear comes in as well, from an employer to employee relation, is that we start to wonder, well, I lost this job. It must be me. Yeah, it must be you, because you must be meant to be somewhere else. Not that, oh, I'm not good enough or anything else. So my discovery, Michael, was that I could not work for other people. I had to work with other people. So
Yes.
it had to be my control. So
Yep.
that's the way in. Even right now, I teach indoor cycling at a spin studio near my house, and it's like I don't work for them. Technically, I do because they write the paychecks, but I work with them. If I wanted to walk away, I could. But
Yeah.
there's a big way of changing that. But anyway, that's a whole nother tangent. But yeah.
I I listen to Fearless Motivation. Not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's just an incredible audio. It's like really inspirational music set to these guys and these ladies who do professional speaking and motivational speaking and stuff. These incredible words every day. I like to take these walks and listen to them, and I get this message bombardment all the time. You need to know your why. You got to believe first, and then step out onto that road. And I kind of don't agree. I think you know, step onto your road, whether you know it or not, whether you believe that you can do it or not. If it's something you think you love, it's something you think you're passionate about, something you think you really want to do, you're going to get good, but you're only going to get good after you practice. And you can only practice by putting your foot to the pavement and taking those steps. And you were going to be in that space of unknown, in that space of unsure, in that space of, I don't know if I believe in myself enough yet, but I want to do this. This is what I did with podcasting. I was like, I came in and I built this thing, and I don't know anything about podcasting. I mean, I know a little bit from my entertainment background and stuff, having worked with and produced other things, but I didn't know what it would take to get this done. And I didn't know enough about fear. Like, I'm not a doctor. I don't have a degree in psychology or philosophy or any of that stuff. What's my business? What do I have, to do with fear? And why do I feel like I'm positioned to be the subject matter expert in this field? Well, I wanted to become it. I want to step into it and become that. And the only way to do it is to try and put yourself out there. So I figured, well, I can ask questions. I'm really good at interviewing people. I can ask you about your fears, and then hopefully I can begin to learn a little bit more about my own and why my life has been so impacted and so shaped by fear, and by the opposite of fear, I should say, the whatever we do to deal with fear, right? Whatever methods we use, coping mechanisms, you name it. What I found interesting was each of us deals with fear, obviously. And most of us are like, crush fear, kill fear, take it down. I'm going to overcome fear, da da da. Thinking that along the way you've beaten it. That fear didn't affect you. That fear didn't have an influence. And I'm like, oh no, it did, 100%, because you chose to make steps in spite of fear as opposed to with fear. And for me, what I discovered, I think, along my journey was that when fear came up, I didn't want to do things in spite of fear. Well, actually, I did. I would say I didn't want it. I didn't want those things in those moments to define me. I was so adamant that those elements of tragedy and violence and whatever that occurred in my life that created fear and surrounded me with that doubt, I refused to allow them to define me, and therefore decided to do something, whether it was the complete opposite or reinvent myself. Well, that's fear affecting and shaping my life, because I'm doing things counter to that moment, counter to the effects of that outcome, and yet it's shaping who I am and my choices based on that. And then I was like, well, I didn't realize I was doing this, right? I wasn't aware of my actionable choices. I wasn't intentionally doing these things. And when I woke up about a year ago, sort of going, whoa, I've been asleep at the wheel, unintentionally doing these things. What if I lived a life of intention where I was actively pursuing, actively engaged with my fear, and actively making these choices? What kind of life could I lead? What kind of happiness and joy and outcomes would I get? And then that's when I discovered putting myself on this path with the Fearless Road and asking other people about their experiences. So that was a big tangent. The reason why I say I think I bring that up is because you wrote in your thing, heal the ho-hum, doom and gloom, sentenced to life perspective that some of us adopt. And I saw that and I was like, yes, that is exactly what I was feeling a little over a year ago, I was waking up every day thinking, I don't want to wake up. I was thinking, do I have to eat and sleep and do the same thing every single day, rinse and repeat over and over and over for the next, 20, 30, 40 years? When does it end? What's the point? I was in that space where I just didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to come back tomorrow. I was like, I'm done. Like, this is boring. I can't take it any longer. I want out. And my family, of course, everybody was very concerned. Like manual labor. I would never consider physical suicide or harming myself because I think I'm too beautiful and I don't want to do that. But, there's I can't do all those things. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh God, that's horrifying. That's too much. But I'll just sit here and complain. And so I was like, well, are you going to lie around bitching and moaning and being this version of yourself every day? Or are you going to try to change it? And that's when I think the opportunity to reinvent myself yet again, to examine my life from this new perspective came up and set me on this path. So what do you say to those of us who are stuck in that sentenced to life perspective? Why do we get there? Like, what's going on with our brains and our minds and our emotions that keeps us feeling like this? And then how do we begin to sort of pivot out of there?
Wow. Well, for everybody's base reason, of the why, like you mentioned earlier, it's hard to say what the why is, but the reason why we stay there is different for everybody as well. But the main thing that we have to do is you have to decide, and it often comes from an outside source. It's never this, it's rarely the draw from within. There are very few people who can be self-starters with this, but there is something with realizing that what you think about, you bring about. And it's not just something that people, in the New Thought and anything else say. It's like, oh, what you think about, you bring about. Just have a grateful day. It's like, no, really, what you think about, you bring about. There's the law of attraction. If you think that your life is going to suck, it's going to suck. If you think
You
your
will
life is
draw
going to be
more,
amazing,
draw more of that to you.
yeah, you will draw more of that to you, And in my book, Gratitude Changes Everything, cute little plug there. There we go. Yeah, pick it up. It's available. By the time you see this, it is available. Launching on the 21st of September, which happens to be World Gratitude Day. So no coincidence there. But I outline by the way, so this book, so I'll just hold it here since I don't have one of those fun little displays behind me, but this book is everything, okay? It looks nice on a coffee table, but what's inside matters. There is not a single chapter that takes even the slowest reader more than 8 minutes to read. I spaced it out because I don't like books that squeeze in all the the font is this big and I have to strain to see it. And then I got to figure out where I was, and then my mind drifted somewhere else. And I got to find no, it's nice and easy. Plus, I wrote it as a book that I would want to read because I don't like to read things in order. My brain doesn't work in order. I want to go and jump around and look at things that attract me to them, hence the law of attraction. So when there's one, there's one. So pick one. But it could be, if you're in the doom and gloom and you think that every day is destined to be just like how they've always been, then that's what's going to happen. But be aware. Wake up a little bit. Let somebody say something to you. When people are genuinely nice to you, don't just sit there and say, oh, well, they're just being nice to me because they feel sorry for me. No, they're being nice to you because people are nice. Where did we get to this point that people are no longer kind? I cannot tell you how many people I see on a daily basis where I hold the door for them. And it's not just like, yeah, I'm walking out of the building, I'm holding the door, here, take it. It's, I'm holding the door and I'm waiting for the eye contact because I want them to see, I see you. I want you to see me seeing you, that someone's holding the door for you. And I'm changing your day right here in 5 seconds. And then just because you held the door, somebody's going to change how they walk to their car, how they get in their car, what they think about as they turn the key or press the button, and then back up out of that space and then move on with their day. It takes something so minute, something so small. And if you doubt that, think about the last time you got really pissed off and you're having a great day. It took how big of something? It was this big to piss you off and to make you really mad. And then what you think about, you bring about. So then right there, snowball, everything just turned to crap right from that point. But in the book and in my coaching and in everything else that I've been talking to people with for more than 15 years, it is always a matter of switching it around in the blink of an eye. Just because you started that way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. What you see now did not look like this. I started this process a year ago. I needed to lose 50 pounds because of the 120 that I lost. I gained some of them back. We had this thing called a pandemic, and I found this thing called wine. And I had friends who found wine, and we just, thought it'd be funny to do. I had this video that I did, little interjection of working out with wine. So yeah, watch this. So we have wine sip curls. So pretend this is a wine glass, and it was
Yep.
and one and
And
two, but
two.
we didn't sip. And then we got to 10, and then at 10,
You could have a sip.
the reward. And by the end, I mean, great arms, but geez, and then we were doing curls with bottles, and it was funny. But anyway, so the habits changed and things changed. No, I didn't need to go to meetings. It wasn't that bad. But and mad respect for everybody who has to and who chooses to and take your life to charge. I love that. But I needed to change the habits. But I knew that. And so I knew nobody was going to do it for me. And I knew there was hard work involved, and I knew what to do. So you just have to start doing something. So whatever that is, do something. So if your job sucks, get a new one. But make sure you get a new one before you leave the one you don't like, because nobody needs to have a gap in the pay. Okay? The other thing we got to do is we have to figure out what's going to make us happy. Again, this book will tell you how to figure that out. I have this little tactic, this little tool. You can even write it down in the book, workbook to come. I'll hold you. You can hold me to it. It's called a MULO, MULO, right? MULO. So it means my ultimate life outline. So you do a MULO for everything that you want in your life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a new job, whether it's a new car, whether it's a new house, whether it's whatever. You do a MULO for that. I teach you how to get specific with designing the MULO and exact language to use with it. And then once you've done the MULO, you realize it's like an order you've sent to a company for something you want to buy. When you do that, you don't think about it after that. You're not like, oh, am I going to get it? Is it going to come? You start to wonder, is it going to come today? Maybe tomorrow, and you get excited about it. But then it finally shows up. Ah, there it is. And as you start to get used to doing that, you just start to custom order your life into how you want it to be. And I tell a funny story in the book about when I manifested and met my husband. And I was writing, I'll tell you the story and then maybe you'll read about it. I was at a Starbucks one day and I was writing in my journal, as I often did. And I decided that I had just had a little background. I had just come out of a 3-year relationship and it wasn't that great. Probably should have ended a year before it did. But anyway, it ended. But so I was sitting in that Starbucks and I was writing in my journal and I thought, you know what, this is silly. I need to design who I want and I need to really itemize a list, as many things as possible, as specific as possible, right down to like birthmarks. What do you want? Who do you want? Write it down. So I wrote it down and then I put it, my journal in my bag and I left for the day. And that was in July of 2013. And a few months later, I'd gone on a bunch of dates. By October, got introduced to Christian. Okay. And then things went really well, as you can read about in the book. I talk about it. And then I moved into this house, his house, this house. But one day I was unpacking a box of journals. The one that I had written in most recently, that one was on top. And so I thought, oh, that's funny. Let me take a pen and see, what I've done in this book just happened to be bookmarked to the page of the itemizations of who I wanted in my life. So while I had the pen in hand, little click, let's see. And I'm checking off the first one. Well, that's funny. Gender. Yes, we know that one's correct. And next, and funny things. And then you get to the 7th one and the 8th one, and of a list of 19 things, by the time I got to item 19, every single box had been checked. And I was not only just checking those boxes in the book, I was checking the boxes in the book that came out of a box of books that came out of my storage in the house that I had manifested to come with the guy. And here we are 10 years later. So if that doesn't just tell you, how do I do that? Tell me everything. There you go. Somehow I muted you, Michael. Hold on.
I did it to myself.
No, you did
I apologize.
You did
that
it.
Was
See,
me.
It wasn't my fault. I'm like,
I was
didn't
so
touch
riveted.
Anything.
I was riveted, ladies and gentlemen. I muted myself so I could just listen. That was crucial. Where was I was gonna say that. Oh, this should be like the next thing that you do, which is called custom order your life, by Dr. Johnny. If you want to custom order your life, you actually should pick up his book about gratitude changes everything. Get it now and custom design your life. Maybe you can custom design your mate, because like manifesting. And I know people think it's cliche. I know people think that it's, the law of attraction and da 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 da, and all these weird things, these sayings, these cliches, these things that are out there. But there's a reason why they're all out there. There's a few reasons. One, we need it. The world needs it. We're in such a state of scarcity and fear. We're in such a state of pessimism, and that's why so much of it is coming up. I think it's because so many of us are desperate for these options and opportunities and alternatives to the current state of our thinking and being. That seems to be really sort of like, underneath this cloud of constant bombardment of fear and scarcity and politics and all of the stress that comes with. And I think it's, as a society, I think we're also genuinely reaching out to the world with our own energy, asking for more and asking for other opportunities. And that's, I think, where this comes up. One of the things that I read many years ago in Conversations with God, I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. Neil Donald Walsh wrote a series of books called Conversations with God. And in the first book, I believe it's first or second, while he's having a conversation with God, and God is reminding us that we are little creators, little gods in his image, brought down here to create, to build this world in our image, from our imagination. And yeah, so if you believe that, if you decide to buy into the knowledge and the idea that we come from a great creator and we are, in essence, a physical manifestation of that very energy, that energy that is creative. We come from stars, stardust, whatever you want to call it. Then yeah, our ability to manifest what we believe and what we think, our ability to draw to us the world that we create. In fact, everything around you, nothing exists on this planet that we didn't invent, other than, I suppose, nature, which we perceive through our eyes. But everything else we created. It took someone thinking about it and doing it, and then creating it, and then it's here. You now enjoy it. We're on a camera, we're on TVs, we're on doing podcasts, we're doing radio shows, we're writing books, we're driving cars, we're flying across the planet on planes. All of this from the imagination of a human being. And so yeah, if you are out there and you aren't sure that you can manifest these things, I beg to differ. And I think that practice is key. And I think that's what Dr. Johnny brings to the table, especially with this book. I think especially with his 6-week program, success, if I could say it correctly. And of course, a lot of the other people that I've had on the show talk about practice. And I've mentioned this before. One of the things that my yogi instructor has mentioned before, which is we fall to our practice, meaning that if you have a bad day, if you have a downfall, if you break your stride or something, what you fall to, the foundation you've built for yourself is your practice. And it takes practice. It takes consistent, constant, ongoing, daily, if you can manage it, practice to do these things, to address our fears, to adjust and change our habits, to step into a different version of ourselves, to invite and manifest a new and beautiful version of our lives. Because if you don't practice, guess what you get? You get what everything else is. You get the fallback. You get the leftovers. You get whatever's coming, right? Whatever's coming. And that's what you're left with. And it's no wonder some of us forget, because our lives get busy. We got children and jobs and, driving in traffic, you name it, all the distractions that you can list that can thwart your practice, that can drive you away from it, and it can be easy to fall off. So that was another soapbox for me.
We are all here for it.
We're all here for it. Do you have an origin story with fear in your own life?
Oh God. Well,
or would you describe your relationship with fear?
I
today?
have a very, very, very deep root with fear. Sure. I do. And it's taken a long time to realize that that's the actual emotional root that causes a lot of strife and things that I've had to overcome. And I mean, similarly to you, I know that you shared on another show that we were on the Networking Diva Hour with our friend Janice Carlson.
Janice.
And back in August, yeah, when
Yes.
you were on with her, that you shared that, a very poignant moment in your life when you were 14. And
Oh, yeah.
just realizing that you had to own up with the fear, and for me, I was bullied. I know you said you were bullied, and the bullying for me started at a very young age. I mean, I did not look like, this when I was 5 or 6 years old. When I was 5, I was adorable. And then I had like an 8-year ugly span. Like, I mean, when I'm talking ugly, I went for ugly. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you're the fat and chubby, pale skinned, freckled, orange haired kid, and you're going to private school and you're going to public school and you don't look like anybody else, no matter where you go, you stick out and you are obviously a target. So years and years of being the easy target and then not having, a very big system of support behind me to say, it's okay. They're all stupid. They're all kids. All kids are stupid. Like at that point, just stop. Just wait till you get older. It'll all stop. But then you know what? It kind of does because it took getting to a certain age that it just kind of stopped because adults don't really act like that. And then the ones that do, we just kind of look at like, what's wrong with you? And we walk away and live our lives because they don't matter. So if anybody who's going through bullying and who is young and the teens watching this today or any day they see it and hearing it, trust me, and it is cliche as well, but it gets better. It does get better. But all those people who are looking at you, telling you whatever you don't want to hear and making you feel how you don't feel like you should feel, they will all change in the next 10 years and so will you. You just got to hang in there. Because then in 10 years, you're going to be scarred with everything that they did to you. And then they're going to be like, what do you mean? What did I say? I didn't say anything to you. Yeah, you did. And it doesn't help when you have a photogenic memory because I can tell you exactly where I was and when I was every single time I was bullied in high school and in middle school and where I was and who did it. And if I told any one of those people today, do you know what you did to me when we were 13? They'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't remember what I did when I was 13.
They
So
don't
as
carry it
much as it
forward.
rolls off of them, they don't care. But
Nope.
it's an imprint on you. And
Mm-hmm.
so you get to choose. Am I going to let this imprint continue to leave its mark, or am I going to remove the mark, remove the brand, and allow myself to be whole within myself again? And that is a personal choice that comes with time and that comes with support from somebody else, whether it's a coach, whether it's a best friend, whether it's a family member who gets it. Somebody else needs to tell you, I've got you. And then it's up to you to trust them to say, yeah, I do see that you've got me. Thank you. And be vulnerable and be you. But as far as fear and the OG story about fear, there isn't really one thing that really sticks out as far as fear is concerned. But fear followed me into adulthood. It followed me well into my 30s, and it wasn't until working with my own coach over the past year, both mentally and physically, did I come to the evaluation that a lot of my choices of things I choose to do and choose not to do are completely based in fear. And it's a specific fear of the unknown based on what happened when I was a kid.
Yes.
So everything is circular. It always finds its way back. So we've got to break the cycle.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I forget, I suppose, that there could be teenagers and young kids out there also listening to this show. So as a reminder to all of you who may be listening or parents of kids who are suffering from bullying, it is a real thing. It is a very real thing. I have two minds about it, which I don't say troubled, but I will say struggle a little bit with. I became who I was because I went through that. It built me. And I had the mindset to deal with it, address it, use it as fuel to fire my life. And I think maybe that's lucky, maybe that's blessed, maybe that's DNA. I don't know. There are others who don't have that gift, who don't have the ability to see that as fuel for their fire and suffer greatly under the pressures of that kind of bullying for years to come. What I will say is whether it builds who you are or you are stuck in the middle of it right now, as Dr. Johnny pointed out, there is a future out there for you where life gets beautiful and none of that stuff exists any longer, where it literally is just in your rearview mirror. And as you get older, I invite you to think about who you surround yourself with. We have the option of putting in our lives and surrounding ourselves with individuals that raise us up, support us, and love us for who we really are. And if you're presenting to the world someone other than who you really are, you will live a life where you don't feel satisfied and where you're not happy because you're not living your truth. And regardless of whether those teenage kids are bullying you or those kids in college or school, whatever it is that they're saying doesn't matter. You live your truth, you live your authenticity, and you will find reward in that. You will find happiness in that. And then begin to surround yourself with people who love that version of you. Because it starts there. It starts with you loving who you are. And if you don't know who that is, I encourage you, get on that journey, pick up Dr. Johnny's book, and you will help find your way to discovering who you are and loving yourself better. I don't even know where I was headed with this. I think it was like, maybe it's about.
Well, while you figure that out, can I just jump in there and piggyback on that? It's like, if you don't know who you are now, you don't need to, but I can tell you who you are not. You are not anything negative that anybody who knows you or thinks that they know you in any capacity would tell you that you are, because who you are is who you decide to be. So
Yes.
if anybody has an opinion about that, that's their opinion. That's not a fact. And the facts come from you. So you decide who you want to be. And you know what the silver lining is? The platinum lining, also talked about in the book, that I can tell you you are and what you have is that the platinum lining is that you always get to change your mind. If you don't like
Yes.
who you are, you can always
Yes.
turn and do something else. If you don't like
Yep.
where you are, you can turn and move something. You are not a tree. You are not rooted. Even trees
Yep.
get moved. So decide what you want. It's always up to you.
That is very true. Every new moment we step into in this world is a brand new moment. Our cells are changing constantly. We lose 280 million in an hour. Like, you are not the same person that you were 20 minutes ago when you started this podcast. You are a different human being physically. So we are built for change. We are built to adapt. That is exactly what we are built to do on this planet. So if you think you're stuck in a place, trust me, you're built to change. You're a human. You are built to adapt. You're built to change. You're built to learn. And with those three things in your pocket, you can jettison everything that came before and step 100% into a new version of who you want to be. Dr. Johnny's book will definitely help you get there and help teach you about gratitude. Take me through a couple more of those chapters in the book, a little bit about what those steps may help us get to. If we were to take the book and we were to pick it up today and randomly just pick a selection, what would you think that we would guide us to first?
The book has a lot to do with turning negatives into positives, no matter what they are. The
Okay.
book is very much based on describing and determining what you want your ultimate life to be and what you want that to look like. So that would be the MULO. And then there's a lot of it that deals with the shift that has happened post 2020. And initially, everybody thought that, oh, I was one of them. I got excited, and I'm still excited for the pandemic happening, and not for every reason. Obviously, it's morbid, but for the good stuff.
Yes.
And I mean, come on, but it's like when 2020 was approaching, I thought, hindsight has always been said. It's hindsight is 2020. You have the perfect way to look back and see something that you would want and to have happen. And after that, hindsight was not 2020. Hindsight, we were just getting started. So really, it's foresight and it's all kinds of sight in 2020 if you're willing to look. Because when 2020 occurred, we were barely in it before COVID happened. And then suddenly everything changed. We literally had a global shift. And so to your point of who you are now and that you weren't 20 minutes ago, you are not who you were 3 years ago. And you
No.
are not who you were 4 years ago. But think about what your life was like at this month in 2019. Where were you? What were you doing? What was life like? And what's different now? There's probably a lot that has changed. And if that's the case, great. So the ho-hum, the doom and gloom, anything else, if that was happening then, is it still? If it wasn't, what changed? And for all the different things that you have to try to figure out, just start with one little thing. But every single chapter in this book is uplifting. Every single thing in here will help you. There is nothing in here that, it is in the genre of self-help, but there are a lot of self-help books that I've read where at the end of it, I'd read the same thing about 16 times. There was a lot of fluff in the book to make it seem like it was this fat, like life manual that everybody needed to have. But then by the end of it, I couldn't answer the basic question of what was that book about. This book It tells you exactly what it's about on the cover. It's right here. And I'm not plugging this book and this cover model. I mean, hi. But gratitude changes everything. I open it in the introduction and I tell you, for this massive problem that we have in the world, there is a solution, and it is gratitude. I introduce another problem into the mix. The solution is gratitude. You cannot feel negatively when you feel grateful. Gratitude is a positive emotion. When you feel positive, you feel good. When you feel good, you think good thoughts. You think about good things. You feel good. So when you think about, you bring about from a few minutes ago, bringing it right back in. That's why you start with gratitude, because if you are not feeling great, if you're having a day from hell, if you're having any situation that is not good, what am I grateful for? Have your fast five. The book teaches you how to do that too. 5 things that you can always depend on to whip your head back into shape and say, wait, that might be terrible, but this is what I've got. I've got
Yes.
A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pick them, don't pick them, pick up letters, what numbers, whatever. It doesn't matter, but you have to have your fast 5. And then once you've named them, don't just name them to say, yeah, he told me I needed to have 5 things. Here they are. Feel them, think about them, allow them to affect you. And then from there, is whatever was bothering you that big? And usually it's not. So then you start to feel good. You start to think those grateful thoughts. And then you start to look around and say, well, I did 5. How about 5 more? And then how about 5 more? You got 5 minutes. How many can you think of in 5 minutes? And you know what? Honestly, if you have time to go to the bathroom during the day, you have time to think about what you're grateful for. I'm just going to leave it at that. However, I will also say that, their gratitude changes everything, everything. And that's why I really hope that, and I wanted this to come out now because I wanted it to be out in time for Thanksgiving for Americans, and then for you Canadians and anybody else doing, Canadians who celebrate Thanksgiving when we have our Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day. So we will, we misalign with the months, but either way, the gratitude, appreciation, the day of giving thanks is coming. But why is it just one day? So if you think about how gratitude changes everything, you take that day event where we eat too much, don't sleep enough, and have to deal with the family members we really don't want to see more than once a year, into this daily occurrence of these things that will literally change your life. So if you live in a life of doom and gloom, ho-hum, I hate everything, what am I supposed to do about it? You're supposed to start with gratitude. Get the book, walk through it, pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. It looks real nice on a coffee table. But remember, I told you in the beginning, this wasn't meant to be read cover to cover in a day. Look at the table of contents, pick something that feels right, read it and say, okay. But I do want you to read the introduction first. It's not that long, but it sets the tone for the whole book. And then you can piecemeal and jump around and just see what grabs you, because it really, truly does work. And it's full to finish finish answering your question. The whole thing is depicted with real life examples of how to do exactly what I've been saying to do based on what I've done in my own life to go from an absolute 180 negative to whoop, complete positive.
Wonderful. Can we be grateful for fear?
Yes, and we should be grateful for fear. You want to know why?
I was waiting. I'm like, I'm on bated breath. How do we?
I'm like, I see your face. I'm like, he wants to know why.
I do.
You should be
I
good.
wanna.
You should be grateful for fear. You should be grateful for grief. You should be grateful for every single emotion. Why? Because for every emotion that you feel, there's an opposite. So if you're feeling something, you can assess, do I want to feel this or not? And if you don't, then the answer is, what do I want to feel? Whatever you don't want to feel, you want to feel its opposite. And then how do you feel its opposite? Say it with me. Start with
Gratitude.
you got it. See, already getting A+ right there. And that's where it starts. But yes, you should be grateful for fear, because that's the stuff that helps you feel like a victor when you finally face the fear. You have to remember too, with fear, it's not something that's just on the surface. Fear is the deepest rooted emotion that I don't have a scientific basis to say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. Fear is the deepest rooted emotion that we have, because it navigates every single choice you make. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, there's something in there. So be grateful for that, because like you said, part of everything that you've overcome and everything that you've dealt with fear-based has made you who you are. And that is the biggest thing for anybody still trying to figure out who they are, no matter what age you are, no matter what phase of life. If you still don't know, there's still time. But you just have to start asking yourself, what do I want? and how am I going to get it? You don't have to worry about the how. The how will figure it out. You just have to decide what it is that you want. And so for me, my want, and this is the OG part, the want was to bring gratitude and healing to the world. That's what I wanted to do. And ever since I decided to do that, here I am. And I didn't know I wanted to have a podcast when I started that. Janice told you when you were on her show that I didn't want to do this. I didn't know
Yep.
how to do this.
Yeah.
People had them, and I'm still looking at some things in code, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I don't know. And I have to use that lovely thing called Google. And then I still don't know on it. But in less than 60 seconds, I'll tell you, I was every step finished with the podcast. I had it recorded. When I first started doing it, I had the episodes ready to go. I just had no idea how to extend it beyond and push it to Apple. No clue. I attended a conference and I met a woman at the hot bar at Whole Foods. After the conference, we were both going for these roasted vegetables, and she grabbed the tongs. And I said, okay,
a bevy of activity at the hot bar at Whole Foods. Like, you can meet all kinds of people there.
Bell pepper, a little eggplant, but so she reached for the tongs and I said, okay, after you. And I saw that she had the name tag on, and so did I. And I said, oh, you went to the thing next door. What'd you think? She said, oh, it was great. And then we started talking, and then under your name said where you're from, and she was from where I was from. So how funny. We were both in Miami, both from Palm Beach Gardens, even though I'm in Jupiter, and they're very close. And we got to talking and we exchanged information, and she was literally like a mile away from me location wise. So we had coffee one day, and she said, so if I can ever help you with anything, let me know. I said, well, you don't know anybody who knows how to do a podcast, do you? And she says, I have a podcast. I'm like, okay, I have one question. I've done XYZ. What do I do now? Literally blah, blah, blah. I'm like, thank you. Couldn't figure it out any other way. And if anybody's looking at that going, God, you're dumb. No, I just didn't get it. Like, I'm really smart. I just didn't know how to do it. So it just takes somebody telling you that one key ingredient. And so for that, here you go. I still don't know how to put it to all these other ones, but maybe you'll tell me how to do it.
It's funny because it's so bizarre for me to say this. I love information and I love finding out things, especially if they fall in line with things that I find interesting. I mean, I can get lost down rabbit holes of discovery about those topics, if it's something that if it's not interesting to me, my brain will be like, you don't exist. And I can't get past that barrier to learn. This is one of these things recently that I was dealing with. It's a new piece of software I have to deal with. And I had tried everything to try to get around doing it. And somebody else can do it. Maybe somebody else is smarter. Maybe somebody else can do X, Y, and Z or whatever. And I finally had to have a conversation with myself to say, you have to learn this. You're going to have to like it, and you're going to have to learn it. So you're going to switch that part of your brain, tell your brain, look, guys, we need this to work. We need this to be successful. This is going to help us in the long run. How do we get to a place where A, we like it, B, we're interested, and C, we're now learning it really easily? Because if I like it and I'm interested, I'll learn very fast. And that's probably true for a lot of people out there. So if you're hearing this or whatever, take this tip or trick if you like. If you can sit down with yourself long enough to convince yourself that this is something that's valuable to you and you can enjoy it once you're on the other side, because things that I know, things I'm familiar with, I enjoy so much better because I'm beyond the learning stage. I'm beyond the unknown space, right? I'm now into the space of using it, utilizing it, putting it into practice in my life, applying it to certain things that help me, right? It's now a tool in my toolbox. And if it's not a tool yet, but it's just another awkward thing that you're carrying around and you're like, I don't know what to do with this, then I can understand how that can be difficult. But it's one of those things, when I was trying to do the podcast, I want to learn all of it. I'd love to do it all well. But then again, there are places where my energy needs to be spent. And so for me, it was a struggle in some areas where I was like, I have to carve out time and just make that happen. I think that's also true. Segue. We have to carve out time to make it happen for gratitude. Fear and gratitude, which can play incredible roles in our lives. One we try to avoid, one we're not familiar with, one we're not, always chasing down. And I encourage you to get comfortable with and familiar with your fears. I encourage you to have a dialogue with it. I encourage you to find gratitude for that part of who you are. Because your fear is constantly telling you things about life and about the world around you and about your own thinking. And if you can become comfortable enough with it to have and engage with it in a dialogue where you now are grateful for the energy and the information it's giving you, you will begin to act on life so much differently than you did before. And I think gratitude, I think you're right. I think I have a gratitude for fear that I didn't know I had developed. I don't think I have been actively, and this is what I was saying before, I don't think I was actively operating with intention in my life from a place of gratitude. I don't think I was intentionally living my life from a lot of different places. And now that I know that those things are tools that I've lived with and had, that those are things I've applied in different ways in my life, now I can actively do that. And yeah, I think finding your gratitude for things in life is a game changer. It is a mindset game changer for so many things. If you find yourself being pessimistic and negative, and I get into this headspace sometimes, so irritated, you got to find something, whether it's maybe it's something you like, a stone that you hold on to, or
Did you really just say that?
what's that?
It's
Yes.
literally been in my hand the entire time.
There you go.
Come on. Come on.
It's there. Woo! Yes, ladies
Okay,
and
he didn't
gentlemen,
know. He didn't know I had this.
I did not know his gratitude stone was in the palm of his hand.
It's
A
actually
touchstone,
it's
literally.
labradorite. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a touchstone. If you need a touchstone, and I encourage you to find something, that just reminds you, and of a grateful moment, of a beautiful opportunity, something that brings you joy or happiness or whatever. It grounds you. It takes you to that place and that space in that moment. So out of your head, out of whatever negative space that you were in, temporarily touch the thing, do the thing, whatever it is, tap your wrist 27 times. I don't know, whatever you got to do, rub that stone. You can sort of switch your brain a little bit and find the gratitude. And if it's hard to find the gratitude, obviously you can pick up Dr. Donnie's book, or the 5 things you wrote down, by the way. Write them down. Remind yourself. Pick them up. Look at them every now and then. Put them into a little wish box. I have this beautiful little wish box behind me. I don't know if everybody see it. My mom gave this to me, which is sort of a Japanese or Chinese woven box that I used to put cards of wish cards and things and manifestation things inside of it once a year, and close it and then open it up a year later or whatever to see if anything came true. And then burn them in effigy with a bottle of wine, have that backyard fire where you're like, get the wine bottle out. We're going to take these suckers and we're going to light them on fire and send them out into the world, which I was a lot of fun, I think, too. If you've ever done that kind of manifesting where you write them down on pieces of paper and blow them into the world for wishes, then that can be a lot of fun as well. So the year is coming to a close here fast for us in 2023. You've just completed your book. It's out now, and it's making its way through the world. The International Day of Gratitude is coming up, and 2023 will be coming to a close. Do you have any major, milestones or challenges that are up in front of you that you want to share with us?
That
Other
are
than
ahead
your
of me?
accomplishment that you've already done. Congratulations, by the way. I mean, you've hit them all out of the park this year, so I'm not trying to put any more pressure on you for the rest of the year. Maybe you need to just slide it into home and be all right. But
That's kind of where I was going. Yeah, I was kind of
was
just like,
it?
no, like chill the rest of the no. I think, and it's not a fear-based. Let me rephrase that. It is fear-based, and there is a fear with what I want to do for the rest of the year, and it's not a fear of it being possible. The fear is remembering to do every single thing that I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
seeing it through, bringing it to market, and to making sure that it actually comes to fruition. This book is 6 years in the making, and it's euphoric at the same time that it's surreal, that I cannot believe I finished it. And short story, real quick, the other day I was cleaning out a closet in a different bedroom. It was the same closet that actually had the box of journals from the beginning of what we talked about. And the holder that was holding a bunch of files, it was this thing you wrap around part of the closet and it's Velcro. Anyway, that I've had that forever, and it finally gave. So everything that was in there just bursted through the door and almost broke the door down, but it made a mess. So I left it there for a couple of weeks because I was like, yeah, it's not a room I use all the time. I'll get to it. And then I finally got to it because it irritated me. So I dealt with it. And that's what I do with the irritation emotion, is I deal with it eventually. But I sat there and I was going through all these papers and things, and then I found some handwritten manuscript notes from the first manuscript of this book that was not this book at the time, but it was this book. And that was in 2017. And I'm looking through and I'm just laughing because I see some of the chapter titles and those actually made it into the book. And then as I kept sifting through all the stuff that fell out of the closet, I found the first typed copy of the first beginnings of the manuscript. So now I've got this next to me. I've got the manuscript over here, and it's like, okay, this actually finally happened. So whatever you're working on, whether it's a manuscript, whether it's whatever, if it's been 6 years, it doesn't matter. You'll get there. Just put it down and pick it back up when you're ready to do it. But as far as the rest of the year, last year at the end of 2022, I said 23 is going to be the year of me. And it really has been. I changed my mind. I changed my body this year. I changed this book. And I hope that that changes the lives of everybody who picks it up and reads it. It's a great thing to bring to Thanksgiving this year. Instead of a dish, maybe bring a dish and a book. Because if the conversation
Hello.
gets a little crazy, and we all have that relative who likes to talk about those things we really shouldn't talk about at Thanksgiving, then you say, and we're going to open the book and we're going to pick a chapter and we're each going to just say one
Fickle
thing.
finger
look at
or
that. I
fate.
just flipped
Let's
to an
just, here we
activity
go.
page.
Look at
I mean,
that.
come on.
Hey,
Right
what
there.
what better gift to bring than your, mom's dish of green bean casserole and the book from Dr. Johnny, Gratitude Changes Everything, for Thanksgiving
Yeah.
this year, or Indigenous People Day. I love that. Are there I say three things that you could, that you want listeners to take away? 1, 2, 3 things, whichever they are, other than, obviously to pick up the book, read the book, buy the book, get down with it. What would you leave the audience with today, if you could? Just one lasting thought or impression?
I really want everybody to remember that as much as gratitude changes everything, that is really something that drives it home, book or no book. Just remember that that's what changes everything. And everything that you want and everything that you desire has already been and always will be inside you. So you just have to listen to that little voice within that's telling you what you want and what you desire. Nothing has to be earth shattering right now. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to have every answer right now. What you have to have is a conversation with yourself. What do I want? And take it from there. But if you're going to have the questions, you got to be able to write down the answers. So you might as well start documenting them, whether they're a wish that you burn in the backyard with a bottle of wine saying maybe, or you write it down in a book and you keep it in a prominent location to say, I've ordered that. Where is it? Then you have to make sure that your actions are in line with what you've ordered. So all kinds of great stuff, and if I can be of any help, please reach out to me, johnnybergstrom.com. And 6 weeks could be all you need for 6 weeks, 6 sessions, and success.
Yes, you heard it right here, Dr. Johnny. You can get his book. You can get your life back in order. You can find your gratitude with your attitude. You can change your practices and your habits. And ultimately, you can change your lives. Gosh, I wanted to ask, I think, a few other things. Oh, about vulnerability.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your stories and your time with us today. I know that one of the things I ask of my guests is to share their vulnerability with us, to create a safe space where we can all talk about those vulnerable sides of our life. Well, I think vulnerability is a superpower. I think gratitude is a superpower. I think understanding our fear is a superpower. So if you want to change your lives and you want to be more, I don't know, more anything, more happy, more gratitude, more everything. Vulnerability is a great place to start. How does vulnerability play a role with gratitude? Where do these two come together for us in terms of how we deal with them? I know that people avoid vulnerability a lot because it's an uncomfortable space for them, but I believe that that's where creativity and love come from. I believe that that's the origination of that's the soil where we plant our seeds for all the great things that come out of life. Is gratitude and vulnerability, are they sharing some space there?
Sure. Vulnerability, a lot of us don't want to be vulnerable because of that magic F word. Yeah, fear. It's a fear of what people will think if we are vulnerable. It's a fear of making other people uncomfortable if we share something about ourselves that they didn't see coming at the wrong time. And there are just so many things. So we all just kind of lock that up and we don't show ourselves to each other. And we also have this lovely conditioning by a world that lives through social media's lens that we don't want to see things that don't look optimal or aren't ready for a show and don't have perfect lighting and don't have a perfect backdrop. And be authentic, be messy,
Put your best
be
foot
ready.
forward.
Yeah, be ready
What's
to
the
let
is the other foot bad? Is that a bad foot? What is it, like a club foot when I'm not supposed to bring that foot with me? Just the best foot. Like that's my
how about
foot.
the foot that gives you the most balance? Put that one
Thank you.
forward. How about
How
that?
about that one?
'Cause
Exactly.
how about that one? Yeah. But yes, vulnerability and gratitude, because if you realize your power in vulnerability, you realize that everybody else is aching to be vulnerable. Everybody is aching to show you who they are if they feel safe enough to show you that
Yeah.
they're just like you.
Yeah.
But we haven't
Yes.
created as a society, we haven't created that as a world, global population, we have not created that. So let's create that. Let's make
I
it
think
safe
that
for everybody just to say, this is me.
yeah, exactly. And I think it starts in order to create a world where vulnerability is acceptable, it begins with you. You have to be vulnerable and you have to show other people that it's okay. And whether they agree with you or not, whether they take that step and appreciate it or not, whether they respond positively or not, it doesn't matter. Their response is not what's important. Your understanding that you've created that moment and that opportunity to be vulnerable and to share yourself. And it's different than speaking truths. Let's be clear about this. There's a lot of people out there who said, well, I just said the truth. Well, yeah, speak your own truth, not other people's, by the way. It's not your place to speak other people's truth. It's your place to speak your own truth. And if you're not prepared to do it, certainly don't shout other people's from the mountaintops. None of your business. It's not your place to do it. But if you want to be vulnerable and have a vulnerable space, knowing that other people can share that without that judgment, without that truth telling, by the way, which is what people hide behind, just truth telling. I think that's important. I think I think people are dying. Brene Brown, who talks about this, of course, I've mentioned her several times, is, she talks about vulnerability as a superpower. I think today, what we've learned, ladies and gentlemen, from Dr. Johnny, is that gratitude is a superpower. I think it's a lost art form, or maybe it just needs to be reminded. The artist's way, uh, gratitude journals, Oprah Winfrey, you name it. It's out there. People have been trying to share this with us for some time now. And if you need a really good reminder of gratitude, pick up Dr. Johnny's Gratitude Changes Everything. Get it today. Write to him and tell him how it's changed your life. Write to me. Hell, write to the show. Talk to us. Let us know how it's changed you. And as he mentioned earlier, you can get him at drjohnnybergstrom.com. Is that right, Dr. Johnny?
That's right. No, just
Dr. Johnny?
johnnybergstrom.com.
Oh, JohnnyBergstrom.com. I call him Dr. Johnny because that's how I met him on the Janice Carlson show, the Diva Hour. Is there any other place we can catch you other than getting your book on like Amazon or?
Book is available on Amazon. The Kindle version is also available on Amazon. I'm working on the audio to follow, so stay tuned for that. Podcast is available on Apple as well as Blog Talk Radio for its Gratitude Changes Everything.
Yep.
Launching a new season starting soon. I don't have an exact date for that, but stay tuned. I'll let you know so you can let everybody else know. Insta handle, Dr. Johnny Bergstrom. That's where everything's going to be. So that one does have the doctor. So any social medias will have that there, but those can be found through my website, johnnybergstrom.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. Much gratitude to you today, Dr. Johnny, for sharing your time, your book with us, your journey with us, everything. I'm going to be doing my homework with his book, and I'm going to be journaling. Oh, you said it's going to be turned into a workbook. Do you have workshops and stuff that we could attend? Is there like is it group related or is it one-on-one for these?
Those will be works in progress.
Oh,
The
2024.
workshops. Probably,
There we go.
there's as of now, the team is very small. So you're looking at it. This is me. This is the team. Yeah. So
Well, I'd love
it's
to
a big
help you
thing.
with
Yeah.
it.
So
I'm down
thank
for
you.
I'm down for workshop in the workshop. I will be there with you every step of the way if you want. Maybe not
I look
24/7,
forward to it.
but I would enjoy the opportunity. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us again on the Fearless Road podcast. This has been Dr. Johnny Bergstrom, the Gratitude Doctor. His book is out. Gratitude Changes Everything. Like I've said, pick it up, get it. It's a life changer. It'll make a difference in everything that you do, see, and have and receive. Dr. Johnny, thank you so much for coming on the
Michael,
show.
congratulations on your new show. Thanks for making me such a part of it in the beginning.
You
Ground
bet.
level. There we go.
Boom.
Fearless Road. We're paving it. Here we
We're
go.
off. That's it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, go be fearless. Have an amazing day and share your gratitude with someone today and let them feel embraced and warmed and welcomed. Otherwise, stay fearless. Check you later. Bye, guys.